keep to ourselves. Science is usually very kept apart from politics, especially here in Brazil. The scientific community has not doesn't have a habit of interfering in politics. We usually keep to ourselves. And it's not a very good attitude, really. We should be more involved in politics.
Well,
Politics
but I
needs
come back to the point that surely the power of science, that it doesn't wear political colours. And yet I'm just looking at things you've said in the last few weeks. As president, you say Bolsonaro bears personal responsibility. His behaviour is deplorable. He disgusts me. To have the worst possible leadership at this worst possible time as a scientist and citizen, I find it so sad that the government has wrecked my country. There's not a lot of science in there, but there's an awful lot of politics.
There is, because I'm a scientist, but I'm also a citizen. And I see what the current government is doing to my country, especially because the federal government ignores science and ignores the scientific community, and it doesn't look to science for advice as it should during a sanitary crisis, a health crisis. So as a citizen, I'm disgusted, and I'm very sad to see what happens to my country. And as a scientist, I feel ignored.
And explain to me why you pin all of this, all of your disgust, your anger on Jair Bolsonaro, when it is quite obvious Brazil is a federal political system. Many of the key decisions on the nature of lockdowns, social distancing rules, face masks, etc., they're not taken in the presidential palace, they're taken by the federal states. So why pin all the blame on Mr. Bolsonaro?
Of course, the president is not to blame for everything that's happening. He didn't create the virus. He didn't spread the virus. He's not to blame for the existence of the pandemic, but he is to blame for the lack of guidance and national guidelines that could put us in a better place during this pandemic. We are lucky we're a federation and the states have autonomy to make their own decisions. That's what saved us. But the federal government has been ignoring science and scientific evidence and has not issued federal and national guidelines to help the states get through this pandemic. In this sense, the federal government is to blame, and President Bolsonaro himself sets a terrible role model for the country and confuses the population.